everybody. My name is Deon Haider. I'm a SNAP Ed educator with the University of Minnesota Extension, and I'm excited to share with you today a recipe for our Cooking Connected program. Today we'll be making pineapple and carrot muffins. This is a fun recipe that can be used for snack, breakfast, whenever you just want something quick. It's also great to heat up the house a little bit by turning on the oven to bake this time of year. If you're not familiar with our Cooking Connected program, we try to have a video and some nutrition education every week. And this is part of our Cooking Matters program. Cooking Matters is a 6-week course traditionally, and in each week of the course, our participants make a recipe. They get some nutrition, some discussion about healthy eating and physical activity, and get to take groceries home at the end of the class to prepare the recipe again at home. You can find out more about our Cooking Matters program from some of our links. So we'll get started on this recipe here today. Like I said, we're making pineapple carrot muffins. So the first thing we want to do is, of course, wash our hands, really scrub all around your hands for 20 seconds. And then we're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit to get started. Then we can start prepping our ingredients, and I've already done some of the prep ahead of time. It's a great idea to really get all of your pieces ready before you start cooking. That way you're not quickly running to various areas of the kitchen to get something that you forgot. So I like to get everything ready to go right away. And one of the ingredients that we need, if it's pineapple carrot muffins, we need a carrot. So I've already grated my carrot here. But I started with a medium-sized carrot. My carrot was probably about this long and yay wide. And when I finished grating that, it came out to the 3/4 of a cup that we do need for this recipe. So you don't have to be completely exact, but you do want to aim for about 3/4 of a cup of carrot. If you shred too much, it's a great thing to add to a salad or something like that. And do be sure that you wash that carrot before you start grating it. The recipe also recommends to peel the carrot. I actually didn't peel my carrot. If you've got a particularly woody one, you might want to do that. But otherwise, I prefer to leave my carrots unpeeled because there's a lot of fiber that hangs out in that skin, which is really good for our digestive system. So we're going to get our carrot ready. And then we want to start mixing all the wet ingredients. Typically when we bake, we mix our wet ingredients and dry ingredients separately. So that is the same for this recipe. So in a medium-sized bowl, I'm going to put in my carrot, my 3/4 of a cup shredded carrot. I'm going to add 5 tablespoons of canola oil. I'll add 1 tablespoon of vinegar, just regular white distilled vinegar. That's going to help with some of the chemical reaction to make our muffins rise. 1/4 of a cup cold water. And then we have some pineapples. So we just need 1 small can of canned crushed pineapple for this recipe. And when you're looking for canned fruit, you really want to look for ones that are canned. This one says in 100% pineapple juice. Try to avoid, when possible, heavy syrups, even light syrups. If you can get it just canned in the pineapple juice, that means they're not adding any additional sugar to your product. This is an easy open can. You also want to wash the top of your can to prevent any microbes that might be hanging out in there from getting in your food. And we're going to put the pineapple juice and all into our bowl here. Then we're going to mix this with a fork. If you've got little hands helping you in the kitchen, they can do a lot of the mixing of this recipe. Even help measure out the ingredients if they're old enough. All right, so this pretty much just needs a little bit of mixing to really combine the ingredients here. I can already really smell that pineapple. Yum. Now we're going to get our dry ingredients ready to go. So I kind of have them all here. And And I've started measuring out some of these ingredients, but I'll also give you some tips on how to measure out dry ingredients. So we need 1.5 cups of flour. Now the recipe recommends using all-purpose flour, but it also says that if you'd like, you can substitute half of that all-purpose flour for whole wheat flour. And the reason you would do that is because whole wheat flour has all the parts of the wheat grain in it. That means we're getting the bran of the wheat, which is normally filtered out when we get all-purpose flour. And that bran has a lot of fiber in it. We're also getting the germ that has vitamins and minerals in it. So when possible, it's great to stick to whole grains. Often though, when we have a recipe that just calls for all-purpose flour, if we were to substitute all whole wheat flour, the texture really gets off in the recipe and it might end up like a really dense muffin. So you do need to kind of follow a 50% ratio on the flours. So I've got my whole wheat flour here. I'm going to move things around so you can see. You can see it's got a bit darker color to it than my white flour. And when I measure flour, I do actually want to use a spoon instead of dipping directly into my jar. And that's just because if we dip directly in, we can get air bubbles. We can end up not quite having the right amount of flour in there. So I'm going to spoon in. We need 3/4 of a cup since I already put 3/4 of a cup of the all-purpose flour. So I'm going to spoon in there, and then I'll use something like a butter knife to just level off my flour there. I'm going to do 2 more so they have 3/4 of a cup. So if you do have some favorite recipes you like to make at home, try substituting half the flour for whole wheat flour and see what you think. It often gives them kind of a heartier flavor, which I like. All right, and that's 3. Put our whole wheat flour away. The other ingredient that I want to show you is brown sugar. So brown sugar is another ingredient that needs a little bit of special measuring. So you can see I've already put in a 1/2 cup of it. Now we need an additional 1/4 cup for a total of 3/4 cup of brown sugar. And when we measure brown sugar, you really want to pack it in there. Most recipes that call for brown sugar will say packed. And what that looks like is literally using the back of your spoon or another utensil to pack in the sugar. That's how brown sugar is usually measured. So when it comes out of the container, it will hold its shape. Now, one reason to use brown sugar in a recipe rather than regular white granulated sugar is that brown sugar has more flavor. It has molasses in it. And so you can use the same amount of sugar, but often have more flavor coming from it. All right, so I've got my brown sugar ready to go. And I'm going to start mixing together my dry ingredients. So we want to get a large bowl for this. I'm going to put all of our flour in there, our brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, or I'm sorry, baking soda. There is a difference, baking soda in this one. We have just a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then I've already mixed my spices together, but 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon and a pinch just of nutmeg. You can also use something like pumpkin pie spice or apple pie spice. And feel free to get creative with the spices in this recipe as well. Get this out of the way. All right, so now I'm gonna mix my dry ingredients together. We can grab another fork to do this, or whatever works for you. I just like to sometimes use the fork to break up the clumps of the brown sugar. And then just a regular mixing spoon or spatula will work. You really want to blend things well. If we end up with all the baking soda in one part of our dough, we're going to have some uneven muffins. Again, this is a great opportunity for kids to help. I do recommend if you are having kids do some mixing, make sure the bowl is plenty big so that if they get a little wild, there's not a lot of spillage. So a nice deep bowl like this one is helpful. Okay, keep breaking up those clumps if necessary. Don't want any clumpy muffins. All right, at this point now I'm going to add my wet ingredients into my dry ingredients. So we'll get our pineapple carrot mixture. Another great thing about this recipe is often quick breads or muffins will require an egg, and this one does not. We had all that oil in there, vinegar, those all helped to do the leavening for us. All right, got that. Now we're just going to mix it. It says just till combined, so we don't want to over mix it. That'll make our texture tougher. But we do want to make sure that everything is combined together. Then we have some optional ingredients to put in. If you like walnuts in your muffins, this is a great opportunity. Add a little bit of protein in here. You can put in a half cup of walnuts. You could also put in a half cup of raisins, which I'm going to do. Just a little bit of extra texture. We get an extra fruit in here. So I'll add my raisins now. You could add walnuts now too if you'd like. And then just kind of gently stir them in there. All right, that's ready to go. So now we can get out our muffin tin. I've got a muffin tin here. It should make about 12 muffins. It's a good idea to use something like a cooking spray to oil your pan, just so that we don't have sticky muffins. If you prefer, you could use like cupcake wrappers. And then we'll fill each cup about 3/4 of the way full with our batter here. And try as when it's possible to avoid spilling any batter or dripping it onto the edges of your cookie sheet, or I'm sorry, your muffin tin. Those spots can burn. So if you do spill, just wipe them off before you put them in the oven. So you can see it was pretty short recipe, but this is making several muffins, and they can be a great thing to take for breakfast on the go. They do taste best warm, but you can just quickly heat them up in the microwave or toaster oven if you prefer. All right, I got a little bit of batter left in here. Oops, well, there went some of it onto the side. That happens, but I'll top off what I can here. If you don't have a muffin tin this big, it's totally cool to do it in more than one batch. Oops, I spilled a little bit there. You do want to avoid overfilling your muffins. All right, looks like they're about equally distributed there. So now I'm going to put these in the oven. They're going to bake. The top should look golden brown, and we should be able to stick a toothpick in there and have the toothpick come out clean. Should take about 20 to 25 minutes at that 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to put these in the oven. I'll pause the recording and I'll come back when the muffins are finished. All right, I'm back with the finished muffins. So I took them out of the oven. I checked to make sure they were done. I stuck in a little toothpick and it came out clean. You can also use something like a fork if you don't have toothpicks. And then these muffins, if we sprayed the pan pretty well, they really just come out easily when we flip it upside down. So got one muffin right here, and they're nice and soft. That pineapple adds a lot of moist texture to the muffin. So really delicious. You can also make these muffins, let them cool down, and then put them in the freezer. And then just pull them out, heat them up when you're ready to eat them. So I hope you enjoy this recipe, and we'll see you next time.